Hola. My only English Spanish word, sorry. Hola, Barcelona. Sí, sí, muy bien. Muy bien. I will speak English, sorry. I'm really happy to make this APIdays Mediterranea second edition. So last year we made a first edition in Madrid. So at the end of each event, so we don't have the slide here. Hey to the technical team. Last year we made a first edition in Madrid, and we had some success there. So at the end of each event, we make a photo with the usual suspect that stay at the end of the event. So event speakers, sponsors, and some attendees. So it was yeah, yeah. Some people are here again. So Kinline also is here also, but we've been growing because this year we will make many conferences, and Barcelona one is one of them. We already made one in Berlin. We are making one in Barcelona. We will be in Moscow, in San Francisco, and in Paris. And last year we made also others, so you can see the speakers, partners, and the people that stay are growing. So this is in San Francisco, and this was in Paris last year. So I hope this time we will be bigger and make a bigger photo. APIdays is a conference for talking about APIs for 2 days on 2 tracks. So we'll have 2 tracks during these next 2 days. APIs makes the web programmable, and we wanted to make this conference to make the humans behind APIs to meet. So we can talk about email, we can talk about a lot of internet communication, but we wanted humans to talk. So talk to each other. It's really important, and this is why you're here. And this is why we don't make, for example, a live stream. No, we want you to be here. We want humans. So yeah, for the moment. So we just wanted to thank a lot Telefonica and Mobile World Center and Movistar that host us. So where is the Telefonica guy? So thank you very much. So we can make some applause for Telefonica. Yeah. So they sponsor the conference by letting us being there on their 2 rooms on the 2 floors. So thank you very much. This conference is organized by 2 companies here. It's organized by Apiculture. So maybe Elena, you want to say something?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, I'm Elena. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. I hope I will in 2 days. Depending if you come from a Latin-derived language, you'll know us as apiculture. If you come from English, you'll know us as API culture and don't know what the bee is doing there. It's Edu and me, and there's also Elena on the front door. If you need anything, we'll be happy to give you a hand with anything you need. Also, Mehdi, the team from OAuth, Maxime, it's Jonathan over there also. So just feel free to ask.
So APIdays Mediterranea is the meeting of apiculture. And WebShell. So WebShell is an API integration platform. But we are just changing our name today to OAuth.io for the people who know the OAuth protocol. We met each other to organize a conference in the Mediterranean countries, centered in Spain, so Madrid and now Barcelona. Just for the word, the conference was created in 2012 with Faber Novel, which is an innovation agency, and Nuno Ribeiro is one of the people of the Faber Novel. They help big companies to think and act like startups, and they decided to jump into APIs. So APIdays Mediterranea, apiculture, WebShell as no OAuth.io, and Faber Novel as also the founders of the conference. I've lost the program. So that's it. We would like to thank also 3Scale. So they have a booth there with Manfred and all the 3Scale team. We made the pre-event party yesterday at 3Scale. So for some people who were there, you've enjoyed some beers, food, and nice discussions. And so they will be there the 2 days, and they will speak also about their great content. And you can meet there. A lot of other sponsors, Context.io, they make an email data API, Paymail, a payment API, Nexmo, SMS, and telecommunication API. Session, so video editing API. Paradigma, who make, it's a software company who make social media monitoring also, and they will monitor our event. And Red Booth, which is a productivity tool, productivity platform. Some media partners, so API UX, so Bruno Pedro, which is the manager of API UX, is there. Kinline from API Evangelist, which is there. and Mark Boyd from Programmable Web, who is in San Francisco right now, that will follow the tweets and make a call with me to make a wrap-up, even in San Francisco, so he will think. All the articles that you will be able to see during the conference and all articles on APIs are gathered on apicene.com. It's a Hacker News for API news, so if you can, if you go there, you will see a lot of articles. I will let Elena tell you more about the next 2 days. Thank you to be there, and I hope you will really enjoy the event. Thank you.
Just very quick practical details. This room here is post room. The one downstairs is put room. We will be dividing in a sec when we start. Actually, we were trying to make a joke like this is post room and downstairs is put room because it's where information is being delivered, while the room over there is where food will be served. So it's a get room because you will get food there. We also have restroom, which are over there and next to the stairs.
With soap inside.
Don't forget, if you tweet, to use the hashtag APIdays BSN for Barcelona, because Paradigma, who are over there, say hello, Paradigma Tecnológico, they'll be tracking what's being said on with that hashtag. So don't forget to use it. Some other things. Yeah, we have a slight change in the schedule. Last session in post room over here by vote 99 about open government, that was cancelled, unfortunately, due to personal issues, so we won't be having that. Apart from that, I think we are fine on the rest. And I think that's it, actually. So overall, have fun, enjoy. APIs are about interaction, so talk to each other. Just one minor thing that I know it's maybe don't look too important, but I'm very happy about it, because last year I think there were only 2 women who spoke on API Days, and this year we have a few more, so I think it's a very good thing also that we are having more women in conferences.
So we are 15 minutes late, like every conference. So just a small question for the speakers. Who is more technical in the room? So developer, architect? Okay, a lot of them. A lot of them, good. And who is not who is not more communication, media, and okay, few of them. Okay, good. Who is from startups, small, less than 20 people company? Yeah, startup definition is hard. Okay, and who is more than 1,000 people company? Okay, so, okay, and last question. I think that's it. So enjoy. We will make the first speaker will be Elie Chevignard from OAuth.io, talking about why you should treat your API like a product. He made this talk at Las Vegas 3 weeks ago. And on the other room, we'll have Javier Lafora for API REST for beginners, or why you should care about making an API, which is understandable. So the room under is on the first floor, so you have to go down. And we will begin in 5 minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ouais, ça marche. Je commence là ou... I wait a few minutes. Huh? Est-ce que tu racontes? Je commence? Hi.
Product manager of APIs.
Elie, okay.
APIs Yandex Maps.
Okay.
From Moscow.
And you work for? Sorry. Someone, can you hear me? Hi. Hello, everyone. Happy to be there. in Barcelona. I was there in Madrid last year. The idea is to make, it's going to be a bit of an introduction, but the main point is it's a message like treat your API like a product. We're going to see why. The idea is that as developers, as project managers, even as a marketer, you know how to make products. And the point is, if so, you can manage APIs, and products and APIs are much more similar than what we think often, because when we think about the APIs, we tend to think about the technical aspects, and we forget the product thing. So the roadmap, what I'm going to talk about, is just to show first that APIs are products. Then I'm going to explain why it's better to sell a product rather than a service, and what does it mean. And in the third part, we'll see what it means to turn an API into a product. Of course, we won't dive deeply in the thing, but try to give an overview with an example. So about me, there is, I know, it works. I actually work with OAuth.io, who also organizes this event and founded APIdays. OAuth.io is an API to unify the way when you integrate OAuth. OAuth is a bit a broken protocol. There are 30 different implementations, so we made this layer to unify the experience, so you don't have to act differently if you are integrating Twitter or Facebook, etc. And I'm taking care of the marketing here. So first, the key thing is that your API is your product. Often, at the same time, when you think about an API, I mean, it's an application programming interface, so it's a way to deliver the software. It's not the software itself. So you can think, okay, an API is a medium, and it's not the product by itself. It's just the way you deliver the product. It's the way you distribute the product. But at the same time, we've seen in the last years a lot of projects that are APIs. I mean, S3, EC2 from Amazon, Mailjet as well. You could think also about Mailgun. Mailgun, for example, is only an API to send email. You have context.io over there. They don't send email, but it's the same. Their product is just the API. Twilio is also about this. It's just an API to send SMS, and you don't have anything else than the API. So APIs are products, and they are not just the way to deliver the products. They are the product itself. It's a bit like this is an illustration to, it's a bit like when you think about this can of soup, the can is the product. It's not just something to put the soup in it. When you buy the soup, it's the can and the soup that's inside. I don't know if you're following, but the idea is really this. So what does it mean? And why, I mean, when I try to think, okay, how did the APIs came to the point where they are today? You think about, for example, the like button. The like button is an API that allows you to like a page. And today, every blogger, it means even me, that I'm not technical, every blogger is using the like button and integrating it to its own blog. Why? It's because it's packaged as a product and really easy to use. Another good example is IFTTT. I don't know how many of you know what IFTTT is. Quite a few people. Not everyone, though, so I'll explain. It's, if I want to simplify, it's a drag-and-drop interface to play with APIs. So it really makes the APIs easy to use, even for someone who is not technical, someone who is not a developer. The idea behind this is that these things are packaged as products, and it's because of these things that APIs really became popular. And I take these examples because it means that even consumers, prosumers you would call it, consumers are using APIs. It's not even only a developer thing, and it's also why we organize API Days, is that even people just like, on the street who are not developers are using APIs today. So how did we came here? My idea is that it all started with Amazon in 2006. when they created EC2, S3, etc. They just took some services that were internal and made projects out of it. And it started with them. So we are talking about productization, and productization, you're a project manager, for example, but when you talk about productization, it also sounds bad. It also sounds like it's a buzzword. I mean, what does it mean, productization? It sounds bad, but I'm going to try to explain. And a good example is to think about Procter & Gamble. It's like this huge corporation. It's a marketing machine. They just make products. They've been doing this for decades now. What happens? How do they make it? You know, they sell shampoo, they sell detergents, etc. So what happens is that they have a laboratory. So they are inside. They make some R&D. They discover a molecule that has certain properties. So, for example, you have this chemist who finds something. Oh, I'm going to be able to clean some socks with this molecule. We're going to be able to clean some clothes, etc. And they are before the productization. What I mean is that they are making this research. They have the potential, and it's a bit like Amazon before 2006. They have these SOAs inside the company, but they are not exposing it outside. So after the productization, you have the molecule that is turned into this, which is a detergent bottle that anyone can buy in every supermarket. So productization sounds like a bad word, but as you see, it's really about this process where you are inside, you have a potential, you are doing R&D, and you take the product outside and you make it external, usable by anyone outside. It's exactly what Amazon did. They did it, of course, because they needed to sell. And for me, the idea is that Jeff Bezos, so Amazon's CEO, did a bit what Steve Jobs did for smartphones. A good summary is that he extracted killer features from a particular medium to turn it into a usable, marketable product. See, the parallel I'm making is that Steve Jobs did this for MP3 players, smartphones. There were MP3 players before, there were some smartphones before, but he just took the features and packaged it to make a great product. And Jeff Bezos did exactly the same thing with the APIs. And in both cases, project management is key, and it's something we often forget when dealing with APIs. So it's really powerful, although it's not about inventing something. It's really about coordinating and putting the things together to build a product. It's productization. The sentence is, yeah, Bezos didn't invent REST, and Jobs didn't invent touchscreens, although they invented these killer products. So you might be, okay, what is he talking about, this marketing perspective? It doesn't mean anything. So I'm gonna, I like this example. Like, for example, Twilio is when you talk about APIs projects, you always talk about Amazon, but Twilio is always a second in every presentation. You'll probably, some other speakers will talk about Twilio. It's 100% API driven. And when you look at the CEO of Twilio, it's next product manager at Amazon. And I think it's not pure luck that it's like this. It's really because these APIs are about the product, and he did Twilio because he knew how to build a product out of an API. If you want to contradict me, and you should, if you want to ask questions, you can think also about older APIs like eBay, Flickr, and you could even say, oh, but there was also this Windows API in the 90s, etc. It's true, but they were not packaged as products, and they don't aim to be products, but rather to distribute the products. So I leave it on the side. So second part is, okay, I explain why I consider that APIs became popular by becoming projects, but it's as a business, okay, as a developer, why do you want to sell a product rather than a service? And there is a lot of confusion behind this, and I'm going to try to explain why there is confusion and try to clarify. To clarify, it's often interesting to look back at old definitions. traditional definitions. Traditionally, you cannot see it maybe, but it's just a chair. And the idea is that when you think about a product, you often think about a physical good, which is the opposite of a service, which is immaterial. So the product is really something you can grab, a chair, a computer, whatever, something physical, and the service is something immaterial. This is the traditional definition. And there is this expression, SaaS, which is software as a service. And we often forget that it's as a. So we think that we consume services, but in fact, it's just as a service. It's not a service itself. It's a product that you deliver as a service. It means that you are. It really means that you are getting the good aspect about the product, and you get also the good aspect about the service. I'm going to try to clarify. Don't worry. It's just when you talk about web service, about a software as a service, it's just a business model, a tech notion, nothing more. Like I said, I'm going to go. And so when I'm talking about advantages of products over services, it's because products are consistent. When I'm talking about the chair, I also like to talk about, for example, you buy some toothpaste in a supermarket. The product is always it's always the same. When you think about services, you know, there is a lot of uncertainty and inconsistency. The good example is like the toothpaste, like I was talking about. You pick them, you pick the product, and that's it. It's the same over and over. When you think about services, they perform. You see what I mean? So and on one side, you depend on the human, and on the other, you're really sure about what you are consuming. So the point is that as a company, as a developer, you want to sell a product and not a service. You can think about it in the different departments, in the different division of your business. When you think about HR, for example, you depend on the people. And when you sell a service, there is this sentence that says your most valuable assets walk in and out the door every day. So you depend on the people, and it's really a lot of uncertainty, whereas if you are selling cans of soup, you have the infrastructure to produce the soup, and you don't have to depend on the people every day who can just walk out. If you are selling services with consultants, for example, your consultants are really the things it's not the things, but you depend on them to make the products. When you think about marketing, also it's very, very important to have a product rather than a service, because it's much more powerful. There is this sentence about David Ogilvy that you might know. He's a very well-known publicist from the 20th century. And he used to say that to create a service business you can sell, do whatever you can to make your business have a product and a formula that predictably delivers results. So you see, it's really about the consistency of the product, and it's very important. And even if you are selling service, you will do everything you can to build a product out of it and make it clear, make a clear promise to the customer. When you talk about profitability also, it's very important. The product has a lot of advantages versus services. And a good example I like to take is if you are selling an API, if you are selling and you packaged it as a product, the customers just come in, integrate your API, and use it, and they pay you. And that's great because you don't need to interact much. Instead, except to explain how it works, maybe, or to make something custom, etc. And a mistake that you can make is, for example, and I've seen this in the past, is, for example, a CEO of a SaaS company who is saying, okay, we have this big customer, he has some special needs, our API doesn't suit his needs, but we're going to develop some special features for him, just these one-time features, we will not do it for every client, but for him it's special, and like this he would give us money, etc. So you go in a logic where you are selling some service rather than a product, because you have some developers who are working on certain special features that will not be available for all the customers, and this is really bad because your product team, your developer team is going to waste some time on developing these small one-time features, and also these are like patches, plugins that will be valid only for this client, and that will often be very buggy. And so in this case, the idea is that you're also going to have lower margins on what you are going to sell. It's really bad. Why? Because you are selling service instead of selling your product. And so it's also about focus. When you're selling your product, is keep on selling just the product and limit the service that you are selling. And when you think about SaaS is really about this. It's really about, even if there is the word service in SaaS, it's really about selling just the product and stop selling service as much as possible. When you think about the 90s, when you were selling, even in the 2000s and even still today, when you sell software on-premise, a lot of what you're going to sell is service, and it's really bad because it means that you need to have huge teams and you need to manage the projects, and it's difficult. And so I was talking about the advantages of having a product for marketing, and it's also for sales. I don't know if you can see it, not at all, but I made this funnel, sales funnel. You won't see it, but the idea is that in the sales funnel, if you have a product and that people can use it on their own, like Twilio is the good example, your sales are not going to work on the top of the funnel. They're going to interact with the customer when the customer is on, he's at the end of the funnel. So very concretely, it means that, for example, Twilio is a very good example because the developer is going to integrate the API, read the documentation, start to play with it, etc. He's going to spend a few days on it, and he knows that it's exactly what he needs. And at some point, maybe he's going to open an email, write an email, or take his phone and give a phone call to the sales because he has special needs. But the sales team on the Twilio side, they talk just to customers who know exactly that they need this product, and so they don't waste time cold calling people and saying, hey, you need to test my product, etc. I'm going to explain you why you need my product, blah, blah, blah. It costs a lot of money. So it's kind, you do only inside sales, and the customer can just sell himself the product. And this is because you have a product approach. You are following what I'm saying? Or, yeah. And it's very interesting. I mean, it means that if you have a startup and at some point you want to scale and really grow the revenues, it's much better to have an API-driven, a product-driven sales rather than building a huge sales team. And you see a lot of startups who fail, or even bigger companies who need to let people go, etc., because they had this huge sales team that cost a lot of money, and it makes the whole thing very fragile. Also for production, it's much better to have a product because it just scales. When you think about the logic, when you are selling service, and that for each client you're performing something special, etc., it's going to be very difficult to scale, to go from 10 clients to 1,000. If you are just selling an API and people just consume the API on their own and not interact much with you and just can pick the thing, it's going to be much easier to scale. And these are just examples to show how important it is to have a product approach. This is the APIdays guy. And so I'm going to, the last part is to say, okay, we see that it's very important to consider that an API is a product, but what does it really mean? I mean, when you have an API, how do you proceed to make a product out of an API? I take my Procter & Gamble example. I don't have shares. It's funny because in Las Vegas, I was also using this Procter & Gamble example, and we were at it was an IBM convention, and then people were thinking that I was working for Procter & Gamble. No, it's just because I think it's fun because they are really the archetype of people making products. So when we were talking about this molecular in the laboratory, R&D, and they took it out and make this detergent bottle. So what happened in the process? They gave it a name, they packaged it in this plastic thing, they wrote instructions that you can see on it, like how do you use it. Some words of caution is very important as well for I have a kid, so it's good to know, I should not feed my daughter with Tide. And they barcoded it, and they copyright, there is I need to correct this, but copyright with an R. So, okay, does it work to do this? This is all the steps that they went through to make a product out of their molecular. When you think about an API, it's the same, and I'm going to take, for example, OAuth.io. We made this API to deal with OAuth. We named it OAuth.io. We thought it was a good name. We packaged it. So as an API, like I said, it's a medium. It's an API is like a can. We wrote some instructions. It's the API documentation. We also wrote some words of caution. It's the terms of use. And we barcoded it. It's the business model, SaaS model. And we licensed the thing. We also have an open source license on the core, etc. So you see, it's exactly the steps that you need to go through. And each step is very important. I mean, the name, so it's marketing. OAuth.io, it makes it obvious that it's about OAuth. And if you are selling email, you name yourself SendGrid, MailJet, or whatever, but you choose a name that is powerful. Package it. The API documentation, for example, write instructions. It's really about marketing, this API documentation. Sometimes a lot of services are just commodities. For example, email, you can go from one provider to the other. You get the same kind of performance. So very often, you're going to be able to differentiate yourself with the API documentation. And so each of these steps is very important to build a product. And the idea behind all this is that treat your API like a product means that you must have someone in charge to manage all this, and it's the API product manager, I guess, who coordinates all these steps and who has an overview. Sometimes you don't have to, very often it's one person if you have a big team, or sometimes if you have a small team, maybe you don't need a product manager, but you need a product manager state of mind. Even if there is not one person incarnating the role, you really need to have everyone very involved to think about all this all along. And so that's the idea of my talk, is really treat the API like a product, and for this, have this project manager state of mind, or name a project manager who really coordinates all this, because very often, I mean, when you think about all these steps, you have some technical things, very technical things, but you have also some marketing things. And if you give, for example, the marketing just to the marketing team who is not technical, you're going to mess up. You need really a lot of coordination to make a great product with all this. That's the thing. I don't know if you have questions. I don't know how long I talked. Micro?
Well, some question. Oh, one question there.
I understand your point that considering an API a product because of the predictability of the delivery, but the term as a service came because the first one was software as a service, was because you consume it instead of own it. I mean, was it important paradigm shift? I mean, and then later, which was even more important when we start consuming infrastructure as a service, was a big paradigm shift for owning an infrastructure as a product. So I understand your point that would you consider a product versus a service, But the problem with the product is you buy it and you own it. But an API,
exactly
you don't own it, you are actually using it.
You consume it like a service. So you consume a product, and I didn't insist enough maybe on this, is that you get the advantages of the product, but you consume it as a service in a way that you don't own it, and it happens when you need it. For example, you need computing power, boom, you ask for it, and it's there. And it's the same thing for a service. For example, if I ask you, go and get me a bottle of water because I need it, it doesn't pre-exist to my request. I don't know if it answers.
Yes, but the problem is when you consume it, you get back to the service side because then you have a performance.
Because of
you have a performance. I mean, when you consume an API, the API is not only the specification of the functionalities, also how do you deliver it, how do you use it, the quality of service. So, I mean, I agree completely with you. The idea of we should think about API as a product, but in the moment that we are delivering it as a service, we cannot forget that part because they are not really service products.
It's delivered as a service, but on the other side, it's not really a service because it's automated and it's how do you say it? It works in a systematic way, and it's not, there is not this uncertainty aspect as in the traditional service definition. That's why that's why I took the traditional definition. It's just because historically services are this uncertain things. It's just the way it's delivered. I think we are. I agree with what you are saying.
I think the best example maybe is Uber. You know, Uber for delivering cabs, for example. So it's just a cab service, but when you have to order a cab in the street you don't know, there is uncertainty for you to find one. Uber is exactly the same, but they sell it as a product, so you feel it consistent. It's at the end it's the same service behind, but they sell it like a service, like a product, so it feels completely consistent, and you know that you will have one. It's exactly the same that going in the street, but now they sell it as a product.
Oh, the Ogilvy quote also I was taking, it's because the guy has had a consultancy firm, and when you look at consultancy firms, they are selling service, they are selling consultants who perform. But although they are just really selling service, they build products and try to have a systematic approach to depend less on their people. So it's just, of course, it's just making a product out of the service. But of course it's a service. I don't know if it's clear.
We have time for another question. Just who is an API company? Who has to sell an API in the room? And do you sell your API like a product yet?
We have a project manager from Yandex here, API project manager from Yandex.
Okay, so thank you, Elie.
Thank
you
you
very much.